So a farmer had a female pig and decided that he wanted to raise pigs. So he found another farmer that had a male pig, and they decided to get the two pigs together. So the farmer took his female pig, put her in the truck of his car, and went over to the other farmer's house. And the two pigs got together. And as the farmer was getting ready to leave, he asked, well, how am I going to know whether this took or not? And the other farmer says, well, it's very simple. Tomorrow morning, look out your window. And if you see your female pig walking around in her pen in circles, you will know that it's taken. So he thought, great. He goes home, really eager the next morning to look outside. And he looks outside. Sure enough, the pig is not walking around in circles in her pen, but is wallowing in the mud just like she does every single morning, and he's discouraged. So he goes back, and the two pigs get together again. He brings his pig back home, hopeful that it will have taken, waits until the next morning, looks outside, and gosh darn it, the pig is still wallowing in the mud it hasn't taken. Now he's frustrated. He decides he's going to go back one more time, loads his pig in the truck, takes his pig over. The two pigs get together. They come home. He puts the pig down in the pen. He is so excited the next morning. He's so hopeful that it's taken, but he's so nervous he doesn't want to look. He asks his wife to look. And so his wife looks outside and he says to her, honey, what do you see? Is our pig wallowing in the mud? Nope. He's excited. She's not wallowing in the mud. Is she walking around in circles? The wife says, nope. Now he's really confused. What in the world is she doing? She's sitting in your truck in the front seat, honking the horn. Do you know I fell asleep trying to remember that joke last night? I was practicing it against my better judgment during meditation time. It's my growing edge. I love jokes. It's my growing edge, though, to share them publicly. In fact, last night I said to John, I'm going to practice a joke on you. Tell me if you think I can get away with it. He says, you can get away with that, honey. I love that little joke, and I love it because it reminds me of how important it is for us to be enthusiastic about our life. And so I ask you this morning, are you as enthusiastic as that female pig was to go see her boyfriend about living your life? And if you're not, why not? What's going on? What's going on? You and I live in a teaching that should keep us on fire all the time. We live in a spiritual teaching that is powerful and practical, and that when we use it, we can change our lives dramatically. And we ought to be living our lives with a sense of joy and a sense of enthusiasm. We have journeyed through this month in a series that I've called Being Big for God. We have taken a look at the invitation that life gives us to grow and to be big. We have taken a look at how our teachings instruct us to grow and to expand. We have taken a look at how our teachings inspire us. And today we want to examine what it's like to be infused with enthusiasm for our own life, to live it in a grand and full way. One of my favorite quotes from the co-founder of Unity, Charles Fillmore, is something he wrote when he was 86 years old. And when I share it with you right now, I want you to think about the fact that he was 86, not 26, 86 when he wrote this. I fairly sizzle. An 86-year-old man? I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm to spring forth with a mighty faith to do the work that is mine to do today. Yes. Yes. How many 86-year-olds do you know that live life that way? How many 66-year-olds live life that way, or 46? I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm to spring forth with a mighty faith to do the work that ought to be done by me today. I remember my minister and teacher, Bob Stevens, saying, some people wake up every morning saying, "Good morning, God." Others wake up every morning saying, "Good God morning." Same 3 words, but very different way of approaching life, right? One with enthusiasm and one with a sense of defeat even before getting out of the bed. Ernest Holmes, in his book, The Power of an Idea, Ernest Holmes was the founder of the Science of Mind. In his book, The Power of an Idea, he wrote, "Enthusiasm is a joyful trust in life." Enthusiasm is a joyful trust in life. I like that. Enthusiasm is a joyful trust in life, a happy outlook, a complete assurance and confidence that there is a power within us greater than we are that we may use. A power within us that is greater than we are, that we may use. It should be our purpose to awaken this joy in us and again enter into the game of living, not sitting on the sidelines. Not sitting on the sidelines. That's what enthusiasm is. It's to get off of the sidelines and get squarely, fully, completely in your own life. This whole series was inspired by a song by singer-songwriter Cerise Patron called Big for God. And in it, she talks about living loud without regret, living life boldly, dropping our fears, dropping our doubts, living enthusiastically. The word enthusiasm comes from the Greek root entheos, which means to be filled with God, to be filled with Spirit. The truth of the matter is we are all filled with God. We are all filled with Spirit. Some of us have just put a lot of boundaries around it and are suffocating it. But the truth is the Spirit is within every single one of us, regardless of age or race or creed or background or nationality or color or sexual orientation or any of that. Every single one of us, every single one of us is an expression of the divine. We are filled with the Spirit. We just need to drop those things within us and around us that are keeping that full expression of God from flowing freely through us. We are meant to live wholeheartedly. We are designed to live wholeheartedly. We are designed to live enthusiastically. And if you are not living that way now, I ask, what's up with that? Why not? How are you holding yourself back? You are called to greatness. You are called to live loud without regrets. You are called to be the voice of love. You are called to shine so brightly that those around you need to put their sunglasses on. I love this piece that George Bernard Shaw wrote. I'm not going to use them the whole lesson, but for this piece I am. He wrote this: "This is a true joy in life, the being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one. To be used for a purpose recognized by yourself for a mighty one, not somebody else's sense, but yourself as a mighty one. The being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy." Boy, is he painting a vivid picture, is he not? The being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live it, it is my privilege to do for it whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die. Anybody else feel that way as well? Amen. Come on, we can do that. Amen. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, for the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle for me. It is a sort of splendid torch which I have got hold of for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. Amen. We live in a teaching that gives us all the tools we would ever need to live life that way. So I go back to my earlier question. If you're not living your life with a sense of joy and enthusiasm, what needs to change and how are you going to change it? You know, we are at the end almost of the first month of this new year. Many of you, if you were here with us for the very beginning of this series, when I asked you the question, how are you being called to be big for God in this new year? Many of you took me up on the invitation and the challenge to write that down. And these have been sitting ever since you've done this in my office, where during my quiet time and my prayer time, I think about them, I pray over them, I hold you and whatever is written on those pieces of paper in my heart. And part of my prayer is that you will not lose the energy and the enthusiasm that I know is necessary throughout this year to be able to fulfill the destiny that you have written there. So what do you need to do to make that happen? Part of what I know helps to keep enthusiasm alive is clearly being able to see what is so important to you, clearly being able to see in your mind's eye the vision of the life that you want for yourself. And it doesn't matter how that compares to somebody else's vision. Your vision is your vision, but you'd better have one. Without it, you're not going to have a life that is filled with this sense of entheos, this sense of enthusiasm. True story that is one of my favorite inspirational stories about this point of the importance of being able to really see what it is that matters to us is the story of Florence Chadwick. Swimming, she had already swum successfully as the first woman in the English Channel. She had set another goal for herself, and that was to swim the Catalina Channel. And so on the 4th of July, 1952, she left Catalina to swim to our California coast. As she began, her mother and her trainer were in boats alongside of her to encourage her and to take their rifles and shoot the sharks that would circle around her boat. Very, very helpful there. Hour after hour, she swam and she swam and she swam. Can you imagine the strength, but also the fatigue of swimming that distance in really cold water with tremendous fog? She could not see her goal. But she swam on hour after hour, televised nationally, millions of people watching her. She got tired. She begged to be taken out of the water. Her mother and her coach said, "You are so close, don't come out now." She said, "I can't go any further, you need to pull me in." They pulled her in. And after they took her to shore, she was interviewed. And in the interview, this is what she said. "Look, I'm not excusing myself, but if I could have just seen land, I might have made it." She was only a half a mile away. The difference for her was she could not see her precious goal. 2 months later, she made the same swim. Same conditions, but this time she held such a vivid mental picture that she was successful. She was successful. What does that say to us about the importance of us doing that same thing, of being so clear in our mind of what is really important to us, what we're really trying to bring forth in this new year? We must, our metaphysical teachings teach us this, we must continue to hold a mental equivalent of what we're going for. We've got to see it in our mind and make it as real as possible in our mind. Ernest Holmes writes this, "We should take time every day to see our lives as we wish them to be, to make a mental picture of our ideal." Do you know that most people spend more time describing the life they don't want to have, or the relationship they don't want to have, or where they don't want to live, or the kind of work they never want to do again? They're clearer on what they don't want than they are on what they do want. The universe operates on what you do want. And you need to be clear with it. We should take time every day to see our lives as we wish them to be, to make a mental picture of our ideal. We should pass this picture over to the law and go about our business with a calm assurance that on the inner side of life, something is taking place. There should not be any sense of hurry or worry about this, just a calm, peaceful sense of reality. Let the law work through and express itself in the experience. Our part is to be ready and willing to be guided, to hold the vision, to be ready and willing to be guided. Now, does it mean that just because we are so clear and enthusiastic about our vision that we are not going to run into any problems or any difficulties? No, we're going to run into problems and difficulties. There are going to be situations that we had not planned for. There could be criticism, there could be upset, there could be rejection. I'm reminded of the opening, I was not there, of the opera The Barber of Seville in Rome in 1816. Rossini had written this, he was called the Italian Mozart, he had written this opera, and when it was launched in Rome, it was a fiasco, it was a disaster. Nobody that heard that first performance liked it. They booed and hissed in the audience. In fact, so much so that the leading lady was in hysterics and the leading man was thinking about suicide, and they thought, we better go find Rossini, we better check and see how he's doing. And they went and they checked. He was in his little apartment or home. They knocked on the door. They said, Maestro, are you all right? Rossini replied, I was having a nice sleep before you woke me up. But the opera, they said, it's a fiasco. Rossini said, evidently the barber is not good enough, so I must compose something better. That is all. We will discuss that in the morning. Let me sleep now. I want to live my life like that. Do you? Do you? Where if life throws you a curveball or something you've worked passionately for isn't quickly approved of or appreciated, that you can say, you know what, right now I'm going to finish going to sleep, and then when I wake up, I'll figure out what I'm going to do. That kind of calm objectivity. And I think it comes, I know it comes as a result of the kind of deep inner practice that we do on a consistent basis. Eric Butterworth wrote these encouraging words about discouragement. He said, don't get discouraged. The problem of discouragement comes from the neglect of the spiritual life. If we talked more with the Father, with Spirit, within, and less with people, if we listened to the inner voice more and less to the clamorous, glamorous noises of the external world, then we would find a strength and courage that would ensure us against discouragement. Of course, if you love misery and if you want to nurse your feelings of failure, that's your privilege. But then don't blame science or the law of God if things go from bad to worse. We stand in a teaching that if we use it, and if we access that divine power and use it, will cause us to have a gradual ascent from good to better to best in our lives. Not externally as much so as internally. But we must do our work. We must keep that vision alive. We must have that sense of enthusiasm for each day as we wake up is a gift. It's an opportunity for us to begin to live out more and more of our destiny. And you know what? The world needs us to do that. The world needs you to be your best self. The world needs you to pay attention to what's knocking in your heart, what's calling on your soul. Emily Cady writes I think it's in Lessons in Truth, she writes the idea that desire is God knocking at the door of your soul with the good that you are wanting. So it is not just you fabricating or thinking about this vision for your life. It is Spirit moving through you. That's why it will not let you go. That's why no matter how much you get discouraged or you push it away or you say not now or you think you're not good enough, it keeps doing what? It keeps coming back. because it's yours to do. I don't know for sure how it is for you, but I suspect that we're very much alike. I suspect that when you learn of other people who have overcome amazing difficulty in their lives, that it inspires you to better approach whatever difficulty you might be facing. Am I right? I came across a young man that really very much inspired me. He was new to me as I was preparing for this series, and I have a feeling he might be new to quite a few of you in this room. So if we can begin to cue up the video. His name is Nick Vujicic, I think, Vujicic. Sit back, this is a 4-minute video, and I think it will knock your socks off and truly, deeply inspire you to be enthusiastic about your dream and your goal. Yeah. Pretty amazing, huh? Very inspiring. No arms, no legs, no worries. You can Google him and find a lot of cool other material about him. I don't remember the year that this one was done, but there's a few that are more recent. He is happily married now, has a 2-year-old son, just beautiful, beautiful family, beautiful family. I think it is so important for us to have moments that deeply inspire us, that touch us, that challenge us, maybe to look with a different perspective at our own life circumstances, and then to reconnect with what we really care about and what we really want to bring forth in our lives. What I know is true is that your divine nature really is calling you to be bigger. Your divine nature really is calling you to be braver. Your divine nature is calling you to be more dynamic. Your divine nature is calling you to let your light shine more brightly than you've ever let it shine before. Namaste.